Let's kick it off, man. We're live with Two Worlds podcast. How you going?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Thanks for coming on board. I understand how busy you are with your training prep and also the family as well.
Yeah. It's funny. We had drug testers come the other night, and they're like, "Oh, you're on the highest, level of athlete testing. So it's like house arrest. You got to be home at 1 hour of the day, and if you're not there, you get a strike. 3 strikes, you get a 2-year ban." And I'm like, oh. And I was like, I don't even feel like an athlete at the moment because I'm so busy with 2 businesses and a newborn, plus the 3-year-old. So yeah, I'm trying to get back to full-time athlete mode, but I don't even feel like an athlete I feel like I'm just trying to fit the training in at the moment. So yeah, it is busy, but for things like this, it's all part of it, and this is actually just fun. Whereas this is another relief, sort of a break from everything I'm doing. Yeah.
So what are you doing at the moment in terms of all your training and prep? Have you got like some targets in race with races and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, I won Ironman New Zealand earlier this year, and I had to neglect kind of everything in life to get that done. And then I focused on my brand Nerd after that more, and went really poorly in the next race, for me anyway. So yeah, there's just like a balancing act of what I put my time towards, mm-hmm. and lately it's been the newborn and helping out losing sleep as much as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like different parts of my year I focus on different things, I think.
Yeah. So when you're talking about you neglected everything else in life to win that event, can you describe to me what you neglected?
Yeah, so mostly like I had mental breakdown every fortnight with starting this business. It was more just because I wanted selfishly to make a product that I needed. And then I got a little bit sick of like 10 DMs a week saying, what is this? How can I get my hands on one? So I thought, okay, I'll just mass produce it and sell it. And I thought it would be that simple. I underestimated how much it went into starting up a business.
Logistics, management,
Yeah, websites, everything. Like it was the most stressful 6 months of my life probably, mm-hmm. trying to do everything, and results went down the drain. Basically went from 2 years of first or second only to, I think I got a third, but otherwise I was a DNF and 2 fifths, I think.
Was that just, do you think it was you starting a business, did that drag you away from the physical hours of training, or was it like the mental strain it took on you?
I think it's a combo of both. You can you lose a lot of recovery. It drags the fun out of the training too. I find if I'm having fun, I'm pretty relaxed, and you just ride longer. You run longer if you're enjoying it. I take so many shortcuts when I'm not liking it. If it's work, so I'm this job was a hobby, but it was work. At the moment it's work again because I'm trying to focus on. Yeah, I know what I'm prioritizing. If I get up at 5 every morning and start on nerd work, then I'm not probably going to start training till midday, and I'll go till 6. But it's all, you're starving already, like you fluff about a lot. But if I get up and I just start training straight away, then I know I'm more motivated by the race coming up.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I've got to switch on because I've got my first ever Hawaii World Champs in October. So it's time to start being an athlete again.
Yeah. So what's the change that you make in terms of you starting to be an athlete again? So what have you done in your before, that you do mostly of your concentrated time with Nerd, and then now? So what changes from the Nerd management to now being a full-time athlete?
I find when I'm doing a lot of Nerd work, I desperately need an alcoholic beverage at night with my partner. That goes.
Yep.
I'm very highly strung on bedtime.
Yeah.
It gets to 8:30, and I'm like pushing Winnie into bed, my 3-year-old daughter. And I'm probably I'll lean on my sister Jessie and the other employee for Nerd Belts a lot, and I'll put a lot of work on them, and then they have the mental breakdown instead of me.
Yeah.
With my coaching isn't as good when I'm doing that. That's the other business that I kind of run on the side. which I'm trying to do less and less of because it's just takes up so much time. And then, just social things don't happen as much because I'm trying to avoid sickness. So I don't want to get too run down, dehydrated. You just open yourself, even social situations, shaking someone's hand, you have to avoid.
Yeah.
It's pretty ridiculous. But if you're not training consistently like 30 hours, close to anyway, you're not going to win a race. And that's what the best in the world are doing. Everyone gets sick here and there, but with daughters that are young, they're bringing home bugs from childcare. So I need to be, if the second I go out on the piss, I'll get sick.
Yeah, practically every friend I've had that's had a kid go to childcare, they say their sickness just increases to levels they've never seen before. They're like little germ factories.
That's it. And I was trying to get back into training last week, and it was meant to be a 23-hour week just to ease back in to try and build back up to 30. And it was probably like a 17-hour week because I think by the weekend I got the cough that Winnie had.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get over that, and it affects both weeks. You didn't get even over 20 twice in a row.
So when you talk about your 20-hour weeks, do you ever, do you target distances or you just target hours in training?
Yeah, hours. You would know this from your trail running.
Yeah.
You can't really set a kilometre or mile because you could be out there all day depending on how hilly it is.
Yeah.
So, I'll just go on time, and because I'll slow it down a lot if I'm not feeling good. I'll just base pace off how I'm feeling and the heart rate. So if the heart rate's elevated one day, I just have to slow it down and keep it in the aerobic zone.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I might just quickly go over your stats as well, just so everyone at home sort of knows who you are and what you do. I'm just on the PTO triathlon stats here. It says you're ranked number 55 in the world, 5th nationally, 51st on the swim, 69 on the bike, and 50 on the run. Because you've jumped into long distance Ironmans, is this still relevant?
It's not anymore. I got to the top 20 in the world were invited to the Canadian Open 2 years ago, and I got to start there, and then I had this really good year trying to target getting on that tour, top 20, and it's like the F1 sort of
best
top 20.
Yeah, best 20 in the world.
And my plan was to get on that, so went to America and raced post-COVID, got my ranking up, got onto this Canadian Open, and then you kind of, trying to set up that next year they're going to sign everyone for this top 20 thing, and that was my goal. And got over there, got sick. I think on the plane over, I got sick, and then came dead last in that race. So I didn't get the points I needed, and actually just decided to go to Ironman then because that was what was attracting big points at the time. So my ranking was around 30th, and with a few dropouts, people who wanted to just stick with Ironman, I was probably going to be on the tour. And they retrospectively applied new rules to that year's racing to change the ranking system. So instead of attracting more points with a long race like an Ironman, an 8-hour race, you attracted more points with a 4-hour race. But I'd gone and planned my whole season around trying to chase 8-hour races to get on that tour.
Yep.
And I got to this position where I was going to be on the tour, and the fact that they applied rules to a year that's already been and gone, and everyone had planned their year around getting on that tour, it pissed me off so much that I thought, I'm done with middle distance. I'll go to Ironman for life. And I'm pretty loyal now to the Ironman branded racing, and they treat me pretty well, and you get kind of helped out every race you go to. So I'll stick with that, I think.
It's the true test, isn't it? The full length Ironman, and even the 70.3? Yeah.
The 70.3 is very, very hard because it's all go. But if I'm honest, Ironman, I'm nearly over threshold at times throughout that 8-hour race as well, just because it's a race. I can't really pace myself, unfortunately, in the pros, whereas all my advice for someone doing an Ironman is to pace it.
Yeah, I recently had someone on here last week. He tried an Ironman in Cairns, failed. I think he got about 10K into the run. He lost his bottles. He was describing that he was a massive sweater. So all his bottles were specifically dialed out to how much sodium he needed and stuff like that. lost his bottles at the start of the bike ride, had full cramp in everything, started the run, and practically collapsed 15K into the run, had to be bagged up and ambulanced out. So he's going to have another crack at it. But, just in regards to how tough they are, he's a very, very fit dude as well. So a lot of things can go wrong in these races, as you would know.
Yeah, the nutrition is kind of everything there. You obviously got to do the training to be able to finish it, but I do still stand by my comment that anyone could just go out and finish it given 2 days or something. It's just that it's called swim, bike, run, and most people walk. So, if you want to actually run at least half of it, then you got to do the training and get your nutrition very, very correct. Yeah,
I say the same thing about marathons. I honestly think that anyone with a base fitness can do a marathon. It just might take you 5 or 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah. Lauren gave birth like 4 weeks ago. I was like, you could do a marathon right now if you actually wanted
to. What was her? What did she say in response to that?
Oh, there's heaps of swear words there. It's just though I make stupid comments like that all the time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Talking about the previous guy that was on my podcast, I'm starting a thing now, and my wife actually said to me, "This is a good idea," and a mutual friend as well. I bounced the idea off him, and he thought it was a good idea. So every single podcast or every single guest that comes on, they've got a question for the next guest that's come on. So Brett's question to you was triathlon, specifically Ironman, is a huge event. By the general public, the idea of a triathlon, let alone an Ironman, is on a massive pedestal. As you know, it's not just a physical pursuit. Given all that, what's your why? Your really deep why?
So I haven't got a hugely motivational why. It's because I've had a pretty sheltered life, and I said this on a podcast recently where we interviewed Paul Felder, who's now doing his first Ironman at Lake Placid in a few weeks. Mm-hmm. We had him on because he's into triathlon now, and he was obviously a popular fighter. And we asked him why would you even, after all that all the beatings you took and gave, why would you keep training for something like this, especially? Yeah. Why don't you just relax for the rest of your life? And he said, similar to me, I've probably had a more sheltered lifestyle than him. He was scrapping since he was 10. Yeah. I wouldn't have done that. But all I could tell myself to fire up at that really hard partner race is oh, my poor dog's left at home for 10 hours a day. Do it for Dudley. Yeah, I've got nothing. So I just have to accept that some people enjoy this self-inflicted pain. It's also self-regulated. It's as much pain as I want to be in. So
do you enjoy getting to that, 6-8 hours, or you probably finish them in 8, but 5-6 hours in? Do you enjoy that, getting to that stage?
You can. I think if you've kept a lid on your effort for most of the day, then it's a nice grind. It's everything's really heavy and sore, but you're not about to pass out. Yeah. Whereas the other ones where you're about to pass out, you really do just want it to end. Yeah. And that's when you don't. That's when it mentally gets very hard to keep moving. And I don't really look back and go, "Oh, that was awesome. I love that suffering." I like the suffering of I'm still actually in control here, but when I lose control and it's
well, it comes to a dangerous point then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've been in hospital a few times passing out, so I know that feeling. So I don't really I'll keep moving, but I used to push as fast as I could, and that would just end up in hospital. Yeah. But these days, I think I just like the feeling of being a little bit out of breath at the end of a day, or exhausted. I like it, always been a runner. So my why has always been the same. I just love endurance. I love breathing easy when we're just walking up a hill and there's a fat guy next to me that's oh, actually you don't even have to be going up a hill for a fat guy to be panting. You just have to be in the gym hearing him get his trousers on and he's
there's a few out there.
But yeah, I think also everyone who knows me, and I'll go on a tangent many times today probably, knows that I've probably got severe ADHD, and maybe it's a good leveler for me being a little bit exhausted.
Yeah. I was listening to this guy the other day, I don't even know his name, on Instagram and was saying that champions are slightly broken because they just don't have an understanding of, or they have a really good understanding, but when they get to that point of breaking, they can push through it.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that, and my mates would argue otherwise, it doesn't mean you're like stupid. You're so stupid that you don't know there's pain. It's more you probably just associate different things with the pain. Like I can't get flicked or punched. I hate that. I'm real soft.
Yeah.
But in terms of self-inflicting pain and this type of pain, I'm fine. It's like an out of breath, very familiar feeling. Whereas anything you become familiar with becomes a bit easier. So I've been doing it since I was like 8, like sleeping in my sneakers and going for a run in the morning. So I know exactly where that pass out limit is, and I know exactly where that I'm too out of breath. The build up of lactic acid is this much right now. So it's all very familiar, and that's why you think, oh, he can deal with it. But it's like, no, you probably could for a lot longer than you think. That's just, you don't know how long you could feel like that for. Whereas I know I could feel like that for probably 8 hours.
Yeah, I had a really good question for you today, and it's like I've worked with some really, really good soldiers, and I know some very, very good soldiers that are ex-special forces guys and stuff like that. And outside of their profession, they are just big kids. Mm-hmm. And they actually remind me quite a bit of you, how you sort of act on your Instagram, and everything is most situations you can just laugh at, right? And you're enjoying the whole time that you're doing it, and you're really relaxed, so you can have a beer. But there is a point in time where if you flick a switch, you turn into a different type of person. You turn into, like I'd probably say for you, there's Race Steve that comes out. Like almost like there's a finish line and you're standing there, and if there's anything in between that, it's like standing in between a lion and its prey.
Yeah, I feel like
Can you switch? Because is there that switch from normal Steve and then Race Steve where you just see red and it's like nothing else matters except in this finishing this race in a really good time?
Yeah, I noticed in Cairns last year I was very, very stressed with nerd belt stuff, customs and all sorts, getting stuff in. And at one point I just said, you need to focus on this race or you're not gonna go well at all. So I just switched off completely into Race Steve, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, I think I save up probably a lot of frustration and anger for the race. So people will cop it if they're cheating or drafting or anything.
Yeah.
They'll probably get a bottle through the front wheel.
Yeah.
If I wish I could do that. I wish it was like Mario Kart where you could just throw things around and banana peels and all sorts.
Yeah. Collect the little flashy boxes on the way around.
We actually, me and my coach are pretty keen on making this one day like the Ultimate Fighter Ironman, so you can punch on as much as you want if you can get your hands on them. But you've also got to finish a swim, bike, run. So you really got to have your wits about you.
Yeah, my tactic would be to grab someone early and drown them.
Yeah, because it could be, this could be murder actually, because bikes and swimming, it's like, if it was just a running race, then it'd probably be like pretty safe. It's just a fight.
Yeah. Well, you just got to drown someone. If you're really good in the water, then you can win early.
But are you finding with the ultras you've been doing that your everything, all the training that you've had to go through with the army is paying off or helps in some way or relatable?
Yeah, I definitely, mentally, definitely. Physically, I don't think I was, I don't think I really prepared too well for races, but definitely from a mental aspect. Like we've had times in the army where I think right before Afghan, we did a 50K stomp with about 30 kilos on our back. So stuff like that prepared me pretty well to, run 50K races and run 100K races. So in regards to the mental aspect, yeah, definitely. Because, we could just do stuff that lasts for days and days. Whether if you run a race, I know there's a finish line to it. So, but physically, it's a bit of a different type of fitness. We did a lot of stuff where we were carrying lots of load, all the time. especially when I was over in Afghan and that sort of stuff. We would regularly be carrying a lot of weight, walking pretty far. But so I think that endurance type stuff has been very, very beneficial to build a good base for me. But I've always think I've been a decent runner from school. I was always trying to chase you, so that's probably why I was so good.
Is it harder doing the long walks than the long, with weights, or the ultras, or is it harder the sleep deprivation and doing the walks? Like, is it?
Yeah, definitely harder doing that. I would say that my 50K stomp that we did when we were in Sydney, that was definitely harder than the 100K race I did, just because of the sheer load that was going through your body. It was a single man event, so
was that training as well, the 50K?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't, in the back of your head, would you have been thinking, well, the sergeant here could just tell us when we get to the end that you've got another 50K?
Yeah, it was. It was. There was definitely an end to it. So it was training. So we all knew that we had to finish it, and the rule was you had to finish it, or else I don't think you could go on the trip to Afghan. So everyone was going to finish it. But yeah, that was just a long day, long hard slug. I think I did it in 9 hours or something. Got finished third or fourth in my company, which I was pretty happy with. But yeah, it just, the load that goes through your knees, carrying the extra 30 kilos, that's one of the tougher points in doing it. And then with running ultra marathons, all you got to do is just carry yourself.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So I'm just going to jump on to another question here for you. I've got we've already discussed this a bit, but having such a, relaxed personality that you do have, does that in a way help you stay grounded in such a serious sport?
I think the biggest thing for me was getting perspective when I went and played footy with all of our mates for like 3 or 4 years, probably 4. I was a very, very nervous and anxious junior runner, and I'd always go to nationals ranked with one of the fastest times for cross country and track, 3K or 5K, whatever the max distance was for our age, and I would always end up in hospital because I was so exhausted with stress, because it obviously chews through all your energy, stress and all that. So I left running in like maybe after year 11, real angry at it. And if you look up steeplechase stack on YouTube, you'll see me falling head first. That was one of my passing out episodes.
Yeah.
Coming second at like 15 years old at the Nationals with about 150 meters left. And I just was exhausted and I couldn't even get over the water jump. And I just went into the water jump head first. And
is that on your Instagram?
Probably somewhere.
Yeah, I was scrolling through before. I think I've seen it.
Every 2 years I'll kind of say, here's a little Christmas present for everyone.
Yeah.
But so it was a big issue. I should have seen a sports psych, but instead I just kept going to nationals every year, putting pressure on myself to do what I know I can do every other day of the week. And I'd just be so nervous because it meant everything to me. So then going off and drinking with mates and chasing girls and just playing footy for fun, I just gained perspective that running's not everything, and it should be fun. Like, that's why I did it. I loved it so much, and I just turned it into this thing that I had to win. And if I didn't, it was the end of the world. And the truth was that 2 weeks after those horrible things that happened every year at nationals, I didn't even care. I got on with life. So just realised coming back to triathlon that it really doesn't matter. And if I'm having fun and laughing, the only nationals I did well was when I was laughing the whole time. I remembered it was my first one. Everything else went shit. So
it sort of took you to go have some fun with some mates to get a bit of a realistic view on, not everything has to be so serious. So it really, in a way, having those couple of years in footy really prepared you on a more mental aspect for it?
Yeah, I wouldn't be where I am if I'd kept pushing through and just...
So you needed to take a break.
Yeah, I needed to know there's other things in life and that I don't need them as well. I'd probably be now at this point in my career. Maybe I could have gone better if I'd seen a sports psych and never stopped. I could have got better and better physically, but I would probably be desperate to go and get really fucked up with mates right now if I'd missed out on all those, young fun times just out of school. So I've got I don't think I'm missing out on anything. I do love that catch up and social side of life as well though. So it's still a huge sacrifice to not get to do it often. But when I do, I just go really hard and I put myself off it like I did. So yeah, the 4 years I ended up just desperately wanting to get back to something like running and healthy because I had put myself off. So that's what breaks are for. You go and get really fucked up and put yourself off.
Yeah.
And then you've got another 3 months in the bank to, but yeah, some triathletes unfortunately don't need that. So
yeah. Have you ever had blocks where your training has almost become unhealthy? And
so last year in Europe was probably the first time I've really, really burnt out in a training block. I was very, very motivated because I was...
How long was the block for?
Probably 3 months, but I'd got RSV after Ironman Cairns. So I'd just gone the 2 years without anything besides first or second, and these Ironmans were going really well. Won Ironman Australia with a course record, then did Cairns a few weeks later and came second, and then was kind of by lots of people ranked to go really well at the World Champs for 70.3, and that motivated me a lot. So went there and wasn't looking at bloods or anything, but I went to altitude and neglected to take iron and thought I was the exception, and just could do what I wanted and just keep training hard and nothing would happen. And 2 weeks out, I was the most fit I've ever been, maybe 3 weeks out. And I did this session. I was like, whoa, I could win this thing. And then I just got greedy and went further and further and further and dug a big hole. And by the time it came to taper time, I couldn't recover in time. It was just, I got there and I was still walking up steps, like out of breath and this deep ache in my muscles. Turns out I got home and my iron was like 36. So with a minimum of 50 for a normal person. And now I've since talked to sport doctors who say 70 is like what would let you compete on.
Wow.
So 36 is like I don't think they'd call it anemic or anything, but Lauren was critically low as well at the time. She was 14.
Yeah.
As a female, I think their limit is like 30.
Yeah.
So we were, we had a daughter, she was pregnant again, and we were both just like shells of human beings.
Yeah.
And came back and just learnt that I've got to get bloods done more often, and that you're not Superman. You need to. I'm far from Superman.
Yeah.
I need to keep a close eye on everything, and mediocre training and having fun is actually the key for me.
Yeah. Is it? So that's where you find your best results, you think?
Yeah, like aerobic training is. I don't know. We could have just kept it simple and like. I've got power and high speed. I don't really need to work on it too much, like some might have to. So
when you're over in Europe, So when you're over in Europe doing this training block, were you relaying this information to a coach of yours, or were you just going out on your own and just sort of pushing yourself further and further?
Yeah, so I've got a coach and we do communicate, but it's one of my weaknesses is admitting that I'm struggling. So finally being given full-time athlete mode, I was too excited. And when it got to the point where I'd get to the coffee machine in the morning and I'm already out of breath, like I'd be panting making the coffee and I just push through.
So you're waking up, walking to the coffee machine, being physically out of breath already.
Yeah, we were at altitude, so I just passed it off as good, more gains at altitude. Wow. Of course I'm struggling. But yeah, the fact was I came off an RSV virus, which was 3 weeks long, and 2 Ironmans in 5 weeks, and then went straight into an altitude block for 8 weeks at about 1,600 meters. And some days I'd just catch the trolley thing up to like 2,500 and do my run up there. So I it was working. I was very fit, but I just cracked at one point, and the guys that were with me were like, "Maybe you should not come on the run today. You look a bit white."
Yeah,
I'm just pale.
Yeah, I'm just an Australian in a European winter.
Yeah, that's it.
So during that time, how far did that put you back in normal training? So when you came back to Australia, was there like a recovery period where you were just flat on your ass and just had to rest?
Yeah, well, so I went and raced 2 weeks later, which because we did get my bloods done then, and we're like, whoa, that iron's low. Let's start taking Ferrograd C. We'll just do that. And so I raced 2 weeks later, but what I saw in my bloods was my hematocrit was 49%. So you're suspected of blood doping over 50. So I was like, whoa, I'm very fit though. So let's just go for it. And the hemoglobin was like 169, which is really high as well. So I was like, my blood volume's huge. What I didn't know, because I hadn't seen the sport doctor yet, is that without a high enough iron, you can't transport any of that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just stupidly thinking that the amount of red blood cells I had was enough, but without the iron, it's all useless. The blood volume's not there. Something like that anyway.
So
but,
the iron's just the carrier.
I can't remember exactly, but the iron is a very much requirement.
Yeah.
It's very much a requirement in that whole. There's a few things that you need, so those can be high, but if the iron's low, then it's ferritin. Sorry.
So you need balance across the board, realistically, and if you're down in one area, then the other areas won't work as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, heat training will expand your plasma, and you'll have a higher volume of blood, whereas altitude training will give you more red blood cells. So I had that, but I didn't have other pieces of the puzzle. And my cortisol was always high because I was stressed about it all, and cholesterol was through the roof. Anyway, I've sorted it all now, and but I did go and race 2 weeks later. It went pretty poorly.
So
as
where
you'd expect?
Yeah, where did you finish that?
Finished. I was winning it halfway through the run and faded to 5th.
Yeah,
very quickly. So that's just I've been performing below 50 for the last 5 years though. So I've never got over 50, and that's what this sports doctor said. You should have come to me 5 years ago. You've been doing yourself a disservice for years. You've been performing somehow on low iron. I'm like, okay. And he goes, I don't even know how you had the energy to do any of this training.
Wow.
So I think it's you just get used to, that's how you feel. You feel like you've been hit by a truck when you wake up. That's fine.
Yeah, and for people that aren't professional athletes, if you probably tell them the volume of training that you're doing, they're probably thinking, oh, well, that's probably about right. You should really feel burned out. But that's to the average human. Someone like yourself and professional athletes like yourself, you probably shouldn't be out of breath when you go make a coffee in the morning.
You're meant to adapt and get used to it. I should have adapted to the altitude by then and should have known. Lots of stupid things happen when you're overly motivated and you just ignore every sign because you just push for more. It was pure greed, fitness greed.
Yeah, greed of winning and being a champion.
Yeah, well, I just saw an opportunity. I'm like, this is the perfect race for me. And I've brought the family over. I've got 9 weeks of altitude. We're on.
Yeah.
So I was just too excited.
Yeah.
And then I neglected the business, as I mentioned, did Ironman New Zealand and enjoyed the training, took it less serious, did a very mediocre job on the intensity and found that just being healthy, I had to get an iron infusion because the Ferrograd C didn't work at all. My iron actually went down a month later.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't absorbing it. My gut doesn't, they're pretty bad on the gut, Ferrograd C tablets.
Yep.
They can be anyway. And yeah, I don't cope well with it clearly. I just wasn't absorbing any of it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually lost iron, ferritin levels. So yeah, went on and got an infusion and now I'm training as much as I can and it's actually still going up. So
okay,
sorted me out.
Yeah. So, from them failures, you've definitely worked with it, learnt from this time and improving.
Yeah, and like I'm going to be doing a lot of heat and altitude preps for the World Champs in Hawaii this year, and I'll just have to be getting bloods done very regularly.
Yeah.
I used to have this thing where I'm like, oh, he must be cheating. Why would he go to a sports doctor to check his bloods? The random bloke down the road does my bloods, and but I don't know how to interpret them perfectly. So it's good to see someone who's smarter than you. Yeah, that's just about everyone with me.
Well, there's definitely people in certain areas. That's why you have trainers, right? Because they know more than you. They can steer you. They can guide you. But at the same time, if you don't sort of listen to them, don't communicate with them, you can get caught in a certain hole.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So going on for the prep for Hawaii Ironman, in regards to tough races, let's say, where would this be on the scale of 1 to 10 of really tough races?
Hawaii, is
Yeah.
that? I guess it's the toughest. They put it there because it's, I don't know what temperature. It's probably like 80 to 90% humidity and 38 or something degrees generally.
Yeah.
That time of year. So
Wow.
it's just horrible. You actually ride through lava fields and run through lava fields.
So it's brutal.
Yeah, the heat plus that distance plus crazy crosswinds. It's all like, but the problem with it is
So they're really throwing the elements of Earth at you.
yeah. And the problem is it suits people who lose less sodium and lose less sweat per hour.
So less sweaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. The less you sweat, the better you go.
It's suited, unfortunately, to genetics. Like it's not who worked the hardest and who's the best and the strongest. It's like that's why there's a rotating world champs now, and it's actually a good thing because, it gives other people a chance. Because if you're not good in the heat, bad luck, you don't get to ever win the world champs. But these days it's a bit different. Unfortunately, they put it up a mountain, so it's like, well, now you have to climb a mountain. So if you're not a good climber as well, so I'm out for both.
Yeah. Well, so when's that race?
End of October.
Yeah. Okay. And talk me through your prep for it. Are you like you'd have to be going to somewhere where there's humidity?
Yeah.
To do your training blocks?
I know someone who works at the Institute of Sport here in South Australia, and he's going to do a heat consultation with me soon. So kind of want to leave no stone unturned. There's a new bike sponsor potentially coming on board that's really suited to crosswinds. Like I'll go on the wind tunnel and check my helmet and my bike position, and everything suits perfectly for as my fastest sort of time. And yeah, so they got heat chambers there at the Institute of Sport. I'm not sure if I'll be able to use them, but he will tell me. I've told him, tell me exactly what to do, no matter how much money I have to spend. Tell me exactly what I have to do, where I have to go to prepare absolute best for this. So if it's 2 weeks at altitude, come down, 2 weeks at heat, and get a bit of quality in the cool weather, and get off to Kona 2 weeks out. I'll do it. I'd hope that he just says you can do it all from Adelaide and it won't cost you anything. But I'm willing to spend a lot of money getting it right.
Yeah, you can't. It's really, really hard to replicate any type of humidity in the southern states. I lived in Townsville for a good amount of time, and it's just so hard to acclimatise up there. I was up there for 12 or maybe 14 months. Spent 6-7 of that months over in Afghan, and I still feel like I was never acclimatized to it, just sweating everywhere I went. Some days are worse than others as well, and if it's just especially going for a run and doing any type of training outside, and for people that are born in southern states, it's very, very hard. So do you think that puts you at a disadvantage for racing in that type of climate?
Probably. I think you can definitely do the heat prep if you're like, I'm going to wear 5 jumpers and trackies on the treadmill and put the heater on in this tiny little room. Because your exposure only needs to be about 1 to 2 hours every day or every second day. And you only need about 2 weeks of heat training leading into a race, because the gains you'll get in 2 weeks are the same as if you did it long term. Mentally dealing with the heat, you could do it for longer. But the physical adaptations are the exact same.
Yeah.
You will plateau after 2 weeks, and physically you won't get any better at. Your body can get that good in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Mentally, there's a benefit to starting earlier. But we are going up to Townsville for 5 weeks soon, and then I'll have to pick somewhere in Asia or head to Kona and then come back and then head back to Kona. So yeah, I'm willing to do anything because my salt loss is around 900 per hour, 900 milligrams. So gifted people who have won Kona are around 400 to 500. But I'm somewhere in the middle. It's not bad. I can definitely teach myself to deal with the heat.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to get my nutrition perfect. Whereas those guys, they'll do everything perfect and they've got the genetics to smash it. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
Do you think genetics play a massive role in Ironmans?
I think so. Like, my parents are English. I do good in the cool races. It makes sense.
Yeah. So speaking about doing good in the cooler races, you recently just won the New Zealand Ironman. Do you just want to give us a bit of a walkthrough of that race and what it was like to cross the line?
Yeah, you know how you spoke earlier about someone dropping their bottle? I did that. I lost a lot of nutrition, so I ended up. It worked in my favor in the end because they have gels on course, and they were all caffeine ones. The ones that I was grabbing.
Yeah.
So I had about 13 of those in the end.
Did you run straight to the toilet after?
I didn't actually. I drank so much in the race as well, trying to get my nutrition right, that I was the same weight as when I started, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
So I'd done a very good job. That's what nerd belts do for you. I'm carrying water on the run as well. So you never really keep up with your hydration. You can't. You're always going to be in a deficit. But somehow I was pretty close.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had 1,300 milligram caffeine gels. So I was like 1,300 milligrams of caffeine, which is, I don't know if that's probably about 26 coffees. So I was munted. And I was loving it that last lap. It was very, very tough. But caffeine blocks pain receptors too. So it was...
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a good tactic to use it in races.
Almost like alcohol?
I guess so. Yeah. It will definitely minimize pain.
Wow.
So that gives me my a bit of extra dog towards the end of a marathon. I'll just load up. You kind of it can cause cramps having too much caffeine because it dehydrates you a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're already so dehydrated, just do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I've seen on your Instagram as well, when you've crossed the line in Ironmans, specifically the New Zealand ones, your family is there with you, and there's a pour out of emotion that a lot of people may not understand. Now, is that pour out of emotion from your wife and yourself? Is that from the hours and hours of training you do, the sometimes, neglecting that family time to put everything into the race like you're talking before? And are they with you every step of the way in training and then on the race as well? Or is it very much like I get into running mode and this is Steve's race now?
No, they're at the forefront of your mind. They sacrifice just as much, unfortunately, for them. It is short-lived, and I keep telling Lauren that. But so I've probably got like 6 years, maybe 7 left doing this, which she doesn't. And she would rather I just have an office job for sure.
Yeah.
But we were both bawling our eyes out the first Ironman I won in Ironman Australia. It was, and it's even hard to talk about because everything comes to the front of your mind in that last 10K or something, and
just all the sacrifice, all the hours on a bike, what your family do, stuff like that.
Yeah, because I broke my leg playing footy, and the rehab was cycling and swimming, and I thought I got this crazy idea to become a pro and quit my job, and
so that's how you got into it.
Yeah, and because the rehab was swimming with your legs tied together, so I had a pretty good technique to actually keep moving with the swimming. So, and I didn't know what a pool buoy was, so there was no floating. It was all just like trying to drag myself through the water. So I ended up getting a good position in the water straight away in 2015. And then, since then I just, I'd see people out when I rarely did go out, and they'd be like, man, where have you been? Like, you just did a 180. I haven't seen you. You were like always here, and now anyway, I did this huge change on the way I was living. And, you're like less close with the closest friends ever, and you hardly see people even though you're sometimes in the same state.
Yeah.
Just because you're just constantly training or sleeping or trying your hardest to, I'd be working 50 hours and training 30 because it's so expensive. And when I first started out, I had this plan of making money one day, but it takes 5 years to do that.
Yeah.
So I had to pull back on my law and marketing studies, and that's still going. I'm like a 15th year of uni. And last year, Lauren did one of my subjects for me. Hopefully no one at the uni is hearing this. But I've got 3 left, and they're big law ones, which I have to do myself.
I can edit that out for you. It's all right.
It's so she's sacrificing heaps. She took 5 months leave heading into that Ironman just to help me train.
Yeah.
Financially, we've suffered massively because of me. Especially early days, we got together and I'm like, oh, I'm a pro triathlete. And she's like, cool. She just thought it was the thing I'd do for 1 year and quit. But she was carrying me financially for 3 years, and now I'm carrying her for sure because I've asked her to quit her job essentially to help me. She took leave for 5 months into Ironman Australia, and that's why I couldn't stop crying when I crossed the line. And in the interview, because she's there with the baby that we've had at that point. She was like, I don't know, 1 year old or something. I don't get to see my friends often, and I am a social person, so that's tough. And then I just sometimes I have these big breakdowns where it's all a bit too much. And then but I know I'm gonna say all these things like I'll see you guys more, I'll see my mates more, I'm gonna blah blah when I'm with them. And then I know I'm not going to though, because I know what I'm like. I'll get back into the groove of training and just become obsessed again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like as looking forward to retirement as much as I am looking forward to like doing more of it.
Yeah. So when do you think retirement is? In your potentially your late 30s, early 40s?
Yeah, it'd probably be like 38 to 40.
Yeah.
I think about it a lot lately though.
Yeah.
I could just do it tomorrow, and I wonder if I'd be happier.
Mm.
So, but I know that I'd regret it forever if I did.
I was about to say there might be that. As the years go on, there might be the should I have done this? Should I have done that? Potentially, where could I have really, really pushed myself, and what could I have been?
I think I'll get sick of an office job pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you're too much of a jumpy guy to be sitting somewhere inside. I think you need to be outside amongst the birds and the bees and getting fresh air into you. Nothing. It's funny. Nothing worthwhile in this world comes without a formal amount of sacrifice, does it?
That's right.
You really got to, and for you, it's not just personal sacrifice. There's sacrifice on a family level, relationship level, with everyone around you. But at the same time, looking outside in, a lot of people look up to you, I think, from a standpoint of you're a very, very dedicated person. You're a very, very straight shooting person, but you're also having fun with it. So I think there's a lot of people that you're inspiring outside of Ironmans. Just with how you carry yourself and how you're such a fun-loving guy. That's why I really, it's what I really love seeing. You cross a line, be full of emotion, but then you're running around doing parkour on a nerd belt like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, stupidly had this emotional finish at New Zealand, and then I forgot that I'd promised to shave my head and leave the frollet. So just quickly stopped crying and was like, fuck. They kept just forcing me to do it
So what's the story behind that?
I was doing an interview leading into that race, and they always asked me to do something stupid before, because it's just become a thing, because I said I'll do the robot and get a tattoo of a rock if I win this one. And a rock would be a shit tattoo because it's just a weird shape with no, you don't even, what is that tattoo is what most people would say to that.
So yeah, or maybe you could go get a tattoo of Dwayne Johnson, the Rock.
Yeah. Well, it's probably what I would end up doing if I'd won that race, but thankfully I didn't. But this one, I'm like, shit. Like, it just means that I'm going to be happy with second at least.
Yeah.
I'm just setting myself up to be happy, regardless of what the result is.
Yeah. Do you think, in regards to winning Ironman races, is there just a sense of relief that you finished, or is there a sense of relief that I've won this thing, I'm champion?
It's too hard to believe when you first come across the line that you've won, and it's weird. You can't really enjoy it because you're too overwhelmed. I think you wish you could go back in time and relive it, because it goes too quickly, and you are just relieved to get to the finish line. Like, you're just cramping so much, and you always think for the last half of that run, the half marathon left, you're just cramping and in a lot of pain. So you just think in that, and you would know from your 80K that at any point you just think, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. So you can go from winning by 10 minutes in an Ironman to passed out or walking, and someone's easily going to catch you within 5 minutes. Yeah,
I was coming the halfway point for the 100K race I did. I was coming fifth at 50K, and then about 70K I was coming maybe 7th or 8th, and then I ended up coming 19th. I just broke down in the last 20K, 30K.
Yeah.
Struggled to move my body, struggled to run. It was mostly a little walk, shuffle in. Not much cramp at that time, but a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's weird. You can get actually so many cramps, and you think that's going to end your race, and then you get even further into it, and the cramps just disappear. but that's your body saying, I'm about to die.
Yeah. Then you stop sweating, go pale, and you're generally dropping dead.
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot about your Ironmans, you know, how much you've put into it, the sacrifice people around you have made, the sacrifice you've made. What type of legacy did you want to leave behind, both from a personal level and then a professional competition level as well?
Probably, but yeah, no one's going to turn up to your funeral if you weren't a nice person. So probably first and foremost that I've neglected probably the people close to me in because of this sport, and lots of tears have been shed over the sacrifices. But at the same time, the ones that I am closest with, I still keep in touch with, even though I take about 5 or 6 days to reply to people generally.
I found that out.
Yeah. So, and thankfully, once people realise they don't take offence at all, which I just won't. I have to neglect my phone as well. If I'm training, unfortunately, I'm not in an office where I can quickly check the phone. I'm either on the bike dodging whatever, or I'm underwater, or I'm running. And for it all to go well, not having your phone's pretty important. So, yeah, I think friendly. Hard racer, like tough would be like, sucks that that's important to me, but I just don't respect someone who's soft. So
so from a competitor, so someone looking at you to say that he's a tough racer, he can push himself to limits that not many people can. Is that the type of tough?
Yeah, that and an honest racer, because an honest racer has to race pretty tough because you do the right thing, you don't cheat. Whereas other people bend the rules. So
so how do people bend the rules in Ironman? Because I wouldn't think, you know, like I wouldn't really think there's too many rules to bend in Ironmans, but clearly there are.
Yeah, so in the swim, you get a 70% draft if you sit behind someone.
Okay.
And that's fine. No one can even see that you're there. So and some, you know, like the better swimmers, they're not going to drop those blokes who are just not as good as them, but the effort is still the same. Whereas on the bike, if you're meant to keep 12 meters between each bike, which is still, you'll get a bit of a draft, especially if you're 10 bikes back in a long line. Mm-hmm. Some will just refuse to come the front and pull the turn. So lots of races, I might be at the front pushing between 270 to 310 watts or something. Some cyclists listening will know what that means. And people, you know, the further you get back in that line, because of that draft effect, you'll be pushing, let's say, 260 and then 220 and then 200 and then 180 at the back. So that's part of the game.
So it's quite significant, the watts people are throwing down, the rest they can get on their legs.
Then you can run pretty well if you've done nothing on the bike, essentially. It's like a warm-up. But the problem is, and that, you know, that's part of the game. If you're just smart, you'll sit back there. Yeah. And I'm not.
But is that not being honest though?
That's still honest if you keep your distance. But what happens is people come closer than 12 meters when the technical officials aren't there. And I get sent photos some races where I just can't be bothered looking back anymore. But if we're chasing someone who's out front who was a quick swimmer, I don't want to leave it to chance. I'd rather win and drag people along than race for third and fifth or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, people get a free ride because they know I'm going to be the one chasing because I'm desperate to win. Yeah. But if you sit too close, I get pissed off. I'm fine with playing the game, which is not coming in the front. That's just smart. Yeah. But if you get too close, then I'm going to be pretty angry because you're taking the piss.
Is there some serial offenders that continuously do
time.
it? Yeah. Do you ever have words with them after? Have you ever pulled them up on it?
Yeah. During the race, after social media, I'll go crazy. Yeah. Podcasts.
Yeah. Name and shame.
I just
Name
can't.
And shame.
I don't give a shit. Like, if you're going to cheat, then there's photos and everyone knows. There's trackers. You can tell if someone's within a second of the person in front of them on the tracker, you know that they're drafting. Yeah. You can just do a quick calculation on speed versus time and you know that they're too close. And then, so yeah, out there, I say that I keep up, save frustration and anger. I'm pretty angry out there at times, but I'm so happy to work with people who I respect and who help me out. And I'll help anyone, even if they're a faster runner. I'd still bet on myself to hopefully outrun them because anything can happen at these distances. But yeah, and you can redeem yourself with me. But if you keep doing it forever, then I just fucking hate you.
Yeah, well, mate, there's only so many bridges you can burn, can't you?
Yeah,
and especially when you're at that type of pro level.
Yeah, well, it's finance. It's basically coming to my office and stealing my wage for the week.
Yeah.
Or because we trained for an event for so long, you're stealing my income for the last 4 months.
And you're not only stealing your income, that's the income of your family as well. You know, people that rely on your racing.
It's probably what angers me the most.
Yeah.
That we're sacrificing so much, and Lauren and I have had talks about it lots. She's like, you have to play the game as well because you can't just give up our income because you got angry at someone.
Yeah.
But I want to be remembered for someone who was honest. So I'll keep racing the way I am and for the win. And it's been paying off most of the time, at least. So
in regards to, your legacy, you want to be known as a tough, honest racer.
Yeah, and friendly. Yeah. But I'll definitely not be friendly if I have to. But only if you're an asshole. Yeah. Well, I think you have to always be friendly to everyone until they abuse that trust. Yeah. Yeah. And you can, being easygoing, people can take advantage quickly. So massively. Did you find that earlier on in the sport that you got taken advantage of because you were so nice? Yeah, I think so. I'm easygoing. Even like building our house, we were easygoing, and I think bull breakers get what they want, whereas we're not like that. So we rely on people like us to come along, and I'll always, if someone gets me around, I'm going to get the round straight after. I won't stop thinking about it for like a week if they got me a beer. Yeah. One of those people guys. Pleaser. It's horrible. Yeah. So your stats your timings for the 2024 Ironman New Zealand winner. So you swam in 3.8k swim, 52.09. The 180k bike ride was in 4 hours, 20 minutes and 40 seconds. And your marathon was 2 hours and 43 and 31 seconds. So anyone that knows running under a sub 3 hour marathon is pretty incredible. A lot of people target that as like a fitness goal. It's definitely on my list of things to do. How do you run that after swimming 3.8k and then riding 180? Is it mostly, like you said, the second half of the run? Is it mostly cramp? Yeah, I think, So, I got halfway through that one and started cramping and shit. I said, shit, this is a bit too early to be cramping. Yep. But I'd kind of been cramping since the swim that day. Do you have these days where you cramp but on the same level the whole day? Yeah, so I had lots of, then holding the aero bars on the bike, I was cramping all my fingers. But it's manageable cramp. Yeah. I think, so the day before, people tend to drink too much in preparation for a race. And you can flush all the salts and all the good minerals in the body as well by drinking too much. And I probably did that because I was actually sick leading into New Zealand, so I was a bit stressed. And because I'd had this like chest infection, I was on an inhaler. Mm-hmm. And I've got to be careful with how many puffs I have because I can get banned if I have too many puffs. Really? Yeah, you can only have a certain 6 puffs in 12 hours or something. Wow. Yep. And strict. Yeah. Well, I guess they have to be, don't they? Yeah, it's fair because I think Chris Froome, when he got his big recent sanction or whatever he had like 19 puffs. So it's like, so I got put. I've never done it before, but I went to the doctors the day before that race and they said that you've got asthma brought on by this infection. Mm-hmm. So you temporary asthma, he called it, I guess. Because I was wheezing so much, but it got me breathing again, and then I won the race, so I was really happy. But you can get real twitchy and crampy from Ventolin as well. Yeah. So I had that, and I had that in my head, like, oh, maybe the cramps are just from that anyway. But yeah, could have flushed myself a little bit too. But yeah, you can still get heaps of salts in that day, and just it could stay the same. Yeah. But yeah, the second half of the run, I was cramping like here and there, but I could tell the guy who went past me with 10k to go was as well. He was just storming ahead, but then he would like kind of pull to the side and pull on his leg a bit, and then I'm like, okay. So it just gave me hope. Yeah, just keep moving. He might start walking, and then with 4k left, he was walking, and I went past him. Yeah, geez, that would have been a good feeling. It was, but I was still a nervous wreck because we had the headwind to deal with and all the hills to the finish line. Mm-hmm. It was a real windy day, so it was like 3:30s one way and 4 minute on the way back.
Yeah.
Most of the laps, and then the last lap we were both just like 4 minutes both ways.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I was nervous wrecked because he was still there. I kept asking people, like anyone, like there was like some lady walking her dog, and I'm like, how far is he? And she's like, I don't fucking know. What are you doing? What are you talking about?
She's probably just gone for a stroll.
Yeah, she
doesn't
wasn't
even care
watching
about the race.
And turns out he was like 200 meters behind me for like 3 out of that 4K.
Yeah.
And then I came around this corner at the end and I screamed at these guys I knew from a tri club. And I said, and they were just partying by this point because they'd done the half Ironman, drinking beers now. And it was like 1K left. I'm like, how far? And he's like, oh shit, he's right behind you. I just did it as a joke because he was drunk.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want one? And it was pointing to a beer. I'm like, oh, even in this situation, I'll have to say yes. And he threw it all over me. So I came across the line sprinting that last K. Turns out he was already 2 minutes behind me at that point, and he just didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy with my in the moment choice to get a beer spray.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's to run over the line as well.
I really wanted to give up though. I didn't want to run that last K up the hill that hard.
Yeah. And when you do cross the line, what's his robot celebration?
That was again an interview pre-race once.
Okay.
And I said I'll do the robot if I finish. And that's Peter Crouch used to play for Liverpool. And he did the robot when he'd score a goal.
Yeah.
So I just yell Crouch and go across the finish line. I'm like, Crouch! And I start doing the robot.
So is this something that you're going to do every win?
Yeah.
Because it's almost a part like what I see now, where every time I think that you're going to win a race, the robot's coming out.
Yeah, it's got to be a proper race, as in, that's offensive. It's got to be an Ironman, like a big race.
Yeah.
I can't just do a local running race and or
pump it out.
Park run and do a robot.
Do you do it after parkour?
So I'm open, so I'll do the robot every win, but I'm always open to one other weird thing. So I did the Frolic at New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'm always open to, next time I'll just get a tattoo of something stupid or...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm actually considering a tattoo at the moment because you've got to be home at a certain hour of the day at the moment. And I'm just, as I told you, I might have ADHD. Everyone is telling me I definitely do. And I, last night we were out till 9. I just forgot. I could have got a strike last night.
Yeah.
It's really bad. This is a bad thing for me.
Yeah.
Just
yeah. So that's something you got to be mindful of. You don't,
I might get a tattoo of 6 till 7, be home.
Yeah. Just get a tattoo of a watch on your wrist saying, need to be home by this time.
I'm on house arrest essentially. You can change it. Yeah. I could go in and be like, I'm at the pub, or I'm at my. I just have to put the address in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good to have someone like me needing to remember something like that every day.
Yeah.
If I'm banned anytime soon, you know why.
Yeah. Well, hope it's not because of this podcast.
Yeah.
Look, speaking of, you have to be home. I understand you're a really, really busy man as well with running the business and all the training you've got to do. I've just got one last question for you. And like I explained at the start of the podcast, each guest has a question for the next guest. I'm not going to say who the next guest is, but he did play AFL and he has one of Brownlow. So what is your next question for our next guest?
I guess in the theme of what we talked about a lot today, I do have my best results when I sacrifice the most or neglect everything in life besides the training, the recovery, the sleep, the food. So I guess I really wish I could win a race with the life balance and still keep, going out here and there and seeing people and having more fun instead of just so busy. And too focused, it sucks the fun out of it. So my question would be, in your most successful 2 to 3 years or purple patch 1 year or 2, did you maintain a life balance or was it all in? Is there a way to have a life balance and do really well at something, or does it? Because I've found winning an Ironman needs all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get fit enough one day to if this guy says, nah, my best was when I was having fun and, still enjoying life.
Yeah.
It's probably a different sport, but I'd like to get to the point where I'm fit enough or have a big enough base that I could enjoy life and still win an Ironman.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to tune in next week to see the response to the question. So, but look, mate, thanks for coming on. Like I said just before, I understand how busy you are, and I understand that you've got a new bub at home as well and the family and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate you taking the time out to come on my podcast, and definitely hope to have you back, in 5 or 6 months or maybe a year's time after you've done a couple more, and we'll see how you're still tracking.
Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome, mate. Take care, right? Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more information, head over to our Instagram at Two Worlds Collide Podcast. Take care.